Hello, my name's Wendy, and I'm a 34-year-old woman. I've been married to my husband Jack for a while now. He was there with me during the two most traumatic events in my life. The first one was when my dad passed away. I was in my sophomore year of college when my dad died in a car crash. Well, I was broken, but my mother was in a worse state. So I had to shoulder all the responsibilities of the funeral. The impact of my dad's death took a huge toll on both my mom and me. We were a very tight-knit family, and his death felt like we had a very vital organ taken out of us. It didn't take long for my mom to actually fall ill. The months she was in the hospital were a mess for me. When my mom passed away, it was like I had lost my family entirely. When my dad died, I already struggled to grapple with my reality. To see my mom go as well was earth-shattering. Of course, I knew that I should have expected it, considering just how in love my parents were with each other. There was never a thing that both of them did by themselves. My mom died of heartbreak, and that was it. Both of them left me the family home along with a bunch of my mom's jewelry and my dad's art pieces. Of course, they were pretty valuable overall, but I would rather have them alive than the things that they left me. Jack was there with me throughout it all. He was there as I held my mother's hand when she breathed her last, and he was there during the nights after when I couldn't do anything but cry. Jack was a pillar of strength for me. He truly showed me just how much he cared for and loved me, and I was grateful. I felt a little less alone, and that in itself was a great feeling. Jack also helped me plan the funeral, the second one I had to plan in 2 years. You would think that it got easier, but it was even harder than my dad's funeral. I guess because with every step of the planning, I was only reminded just how real it was that both my parents were no longer there. If there was another thing I was grateful for, it was the number of people who turned up for the funeral and the sheer number of them who spoke about how great my mother was and how good my parents were to all of them there. While my parents weren't alive anymore, their deeds and words continued to live on with those who were still alive. The months following my mother's death were some of the hardest months of my life. I felt no drive to keep living. I felt like a huge chunk of myself was gone, and I felt all ability to function normally leave me. I quit my job, and Jack took on everything. Jack never complained once about having to shoulder all the responsibilities. He let me process my grief and supported me all the way through it, although after a month he saw no progress in me. He asked me to get help. "Darling, I'm very, very concerned about you." "Why? I'm fine." "When I left, you were asleep, and now that I got back from work, you're in the same place and still asleep. Did you even get out of bed?" "No." "That doesn't mean anything, though. I'm fine, I promise." "While I do believe you, I do think it's time to get serious about what you feel." "Jack, I lost both my parents in the span of 2 years. Of course it'll take some time to get over it. This is just the process of getting better." "I definitely understand that, but you haven't been able to get out of bed for the past 2 weeks. I know that grieving is a process, but you don't seem to be doing well." "Well, what do you suppose I do?" "Why don't we get you to see a therapist? Not anything for a long time, maybe a few weeks." "I don't know." "Look, I just want you to feel better because you don't deserve to feel so low. Maybe being able to talk to someone on a deeper level and someone who could even alleviate your symptoms will make you feel better." "But it's expensive." "Not a worry for you to have. We have more than enough money for it." "Could you maybe let me just think it over?" "Of course, darling." If I'm being really honest, I didn't want to go for therapy. It felt like if I went, I'd be admitting that something was wrong and maybe like I was weak. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized just how miserable I had been. I hadn't even been able to put into words what I was feeling. I couldn't even imagine how hard it had been for Jack to handle me. Even if it felt like admitting defeat, I knew that I needed to get therapy, at least for Jack's sake. He deserved better than to walk on eggshells around me. When I told Jack of my decision, he was over the moon. I could tell that he was relieved that he would finally have some answers. And well, that made the both of us. Seeing him so relieved only further solidified my need to do it for him. I went for therapy for around 5 sessions over the course of 3 weeks and got diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety. The root cause so far has been the death of my parents. I got put on medication initially. The medicines I was prescribed did not really sit well with me. I was constantly drowsy and felt incapable of doing anything. I was once again sleeping all day. I once hurt myself pretty badly because in the middle of fixing myself a sandwich, I got really dizzy and hit my head on the floor when I fainted. Thankfully, Jack was home when it happened, so he was able to give me the care that I needed. After that, I got my dosages and medicines readjusted. Because of what happened last time, Jack was too paranoid to let me be at home by myself. Jack had to go on a business trip to another state. He had cameras installed in the house so he could monitor me, but that wasn't enough of a consolation. He claimed that he would be busy most days with work and may not be able to watch me at all times, so he asked me if he could invite his mother to stay with me. I'm worried about leaving you home alone for this week. It'll be fine. I got everything readjusted and I should be fine. You still don't know if they work well for you. I took them today and I feel fine. It was only one day. You don't know how they'll work over a period of time. The day you fell, it was only by chance that I was at home. If that happens again, no one will be here to help you out. Jack, look, I know that you and my mom don't get along well, but I invited her to stay with you until I come back. Why would you do that? I told you that this is just another safety measure for you. I know that you're scared, but you know that your mother hates me, right? Hate would be too strong of a word, but this is my only option. I'm sorry, but please bear with her. What will you do if she does something even worse to me? I doubt that she will, but even if she does, we have cameras. We will put her in her place if she does anything that is truly horrible. I'll go no contact with her. I just want her to be here so I can go in peace. Fine, but only because this will make you feel better. I really wasn't looking forward to Jack's mother, Vicky, coming over. We did not have a good relationship, to say the least. Chris introduced me to her after we dated for about 6 months. She hated me immediately. She was pretty hostile towards me from the get-go. She always belittled me and tried to hurt me in every way that she thought she could. When my dad passed away, she didn't think to spare me even then. She could see that I was dealing with a lot of grief, but she would come over to Jack and I's place, and she would call me worthless and pathetic for being sad. I never said anything to her because I was at my lowest and I had no energy to defend myself. Jack, however, had my back. He always put Vicky in her place. He would make her apologize to me, and she would begrudgingly do it. Her apology didn't make me feel any better, but having Jack stand up for me did make me feel better. But Jack, standing up against Vicky, only made her hate me more. Jack and I went low contact with her after we got married. She tried to sabotage our wedding by spilling her red wine on my dress. Thankfully, Jack pulled me back just in time. There was a huge argument after that between her and Jack because he saw her purposely stumble. After that, we only spoke to her on occasions like birthdays and holidays. We did have dinners with her once every 3 to 4 months, and that was about it. This was going to be the first time I actually spent proper time with her. I was terrified of having to live with her, but I figured that I could just be in my room for most part. She definitely would not have an issue with that. I woke up early the next morning so I could bid Jack goodbye and greet Vicky when she came over. Jack made it clear to Vicky that he wanted her there, before he left, so she arrived extra early. Jack told her to keep her eye on me and helped her get settled into our guest bedroom. Vicky ignored me when Jack was there, and I already knew that things were going to not go well. After Jack left, it didn't even take 5 minutes after Jack pulled out of the driveway for Vicky to come into my room and start interrogating me. "So what's your pathetic excuse this time? Can't stay away from hubby for too long?" "I'm really in no mood to deal with you right now, Vicky. Could you please leave me alone?" "You heard your husband tell me to keep an eye on you." "Yeah, I think he meant for you to check in on me periodically and not actually intrude on my privacy." "I'll leave you alone when you confess what exactly you did for Jack to ask me to stay with you." "I got hurt because I was loopy thanks to my meds, and he was worried that it would happen again when he was away." "I got hurt because I was loopy thanks to my meds, and he was worried that it would happen again when he was away." There, that's it. Now can you leave me alone? "Meds? What kind of meds?" "Antidepressants. But does that really matter?" "Oh, wow. So you're an actual loser, huh?" "Can you stop with the insults? I'm going through enough and I don't need you to make things worse for me." "Oh, get over it. Your dad died like 2 years ago." "Well, my mom also died only months ago. I'm still reeling from the grief and I'm trying to get better. Can you cut me some slack?" "Oh, your mom died too." "Yes, Vicky, my mom's dead too. I don't want to hear any more insensitivity from you. Get out or I will call Jack." "So, is that why guys moved into their house?" "I'm surprised it took you so long to figure things out." "I just thought that you put your mother in an old age home. Anyways, what else did you get from them?" "You know, in their will." "That's very inappropriate to ask. Leave my room now or I will call Jack." "All right, whatever. I'll leave you alone." I tried my best to not show her how angry she made me feel with her insensitivity. I locked my bedroom that night because I didn't want her to actually come back after some time thinking I cooled down and ask me a bunch of even more invasive questions. Of course, I knew that doing that mollified Jack's attempt to keep me safe, but I knew I was fine. The next morning, Vicky made a huge fuss about me locking my bedroom. She was apparently really scared that something happened to me and couldn't sleep at all. I did feel kind of bad, so I apologized and told her that I just wanted to be alone for a little while. Vicky made a comment about how I gave her slack about being insensitive when I was even worse with her. I didn't think it was appropriate to compare asking questions about my inheritance after just months of my mother's passing to me locking my door, but I held my mouth. I wanted this week to just get over without much worry. Well, that day, Vicky told me over lunch that she had been doing research about my condition, which she talked about like it was a disease, and told me that she believed that the medicines I had could be dangerous to me, so she would be the one giving me my medicines. Of course, I was very much against this. I didn't want anyone else but Jack and me handling my medicines, especially when they were powerful ones. I refused and she began screaming at me for being a pain. She called me a wonderful amount of insults and then decided to take it to Jack. I had spoken to him the night before and I knew just how exhausted he was from work. I didn't want to bother him with petty issues like this, so I caved and told her she could handle my medicines. The look of victory in Vicky's eyes scared me, but I consoled myself by reminding myself that it was only a matter of 5 more days. Well, that night after dinner, I suddenly felt really groggy. This was right after I took the pill that Vicky gave me. At that time, I didn't suspect any foul play on her end because why would I? Anyway, I told Vicky about how groggy I had been feeling and she gently guided me back to my room. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep. Same thing happened the next day. and I decided to bring it up with Vicky the morning after. "Vicky, I think the dosages of my meds are off again." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Well, they make me feel really groggy and drowsy. I've been waking up these mornings without even remembering when I fell asleep." "Drowsiness is one of the symptoms of these medications. Nothing that I would be too worried about." "Okay. But last time, when the dosages were off, I immediately went off them. I waited to get them prescribed to me again before I got started on them again. I should probably do the same thing again." "Absolutely not." "Why?" Because I said so." "Why does that matter? I don't want to toy with my body like this." "Listen, you better think of Jack and how he has left everything in my care. The poor boy had been so stressed about you not calling, and I had to assure him that everything was fine. You feeling drowsy is just a confirmation that these medicines are working on you. Now, go up to your room. I'll not talk about this anymore." I may have been depressed, but I definitely wasn't stupid. Vicky's answers made no sense, and I knew that something fishy was happening. Vicky had been unusually jumpy. She did her best to stay away from the conversation. I tried to get her to talk about it again, but she dismissed me and told me that she had laundry to do. I tried to let go of my gut feeling, but my mind couldn't help but replay the panicked expression on her face. That's when I remembered the cameras that Jack had planted all across the house, excluding the guest room, for obvious reasons. I had access to the footage because I knew all of Jack's passwords. I decided to look at the footage from the time that I began to feel groggy. I watched Vicky hug me upstairs and flop me onto the bed. First night I watched as she rummaged through the bedroom for something. Finally, she reached into the section of my closet that held all of Jack's and I's documents. That was where she saw what she was looking for. I immediately went to my closet and looked into my documents. There was only one document that was out of place, the will that belonged to my parents. So that's what she wanted to know. But I only felt worse after I found what she was after. So I went back to watching the tapes. However, she never looked through my room ever again. I don't know why, but I had a nagging voice in my brain telling me to check the camera in what used to be my dad's office. I watched the footage with my heart pounding. I watched Vicky click pictures of certain art pieces and certain jewelry pieces, and over the next few days, she transported them out of the room. I switched over to the living room where I saw a few people come on and hand her money in exchange for the items. She was selling my inheritance. The one connection I had to my parents. I never felt anger like that kind I felt at that moment. I wanted to confront her then and there, but I knew that I needed to play smart. First, I had to find out what she had been using to make me so drowsy. I reviewed the footage of the kitchen where our medicine cabinet was. I saw her reach to grab a bottle that didn't look familiar. I went down to the kitchen when I knew that Vicky was taking her afternoon nap. One look in the cabinet and I realized what she had been feeding me. Sleeping pills. Really strong ones, that too. I took a picture of it and decided to call Jack when I got back to the room. "Oh, finally. Hi, honey. How's it going?" "Horrible. I have something big to show you." "What is it?" "So you know how I haven't called you these past 2 nights?" "Yeah, I got really worried." "Well, every day after dinner I would get really drowsy. Vicky had taken over giving me my meds because she decided they were too dangerous in my hands." "What the hell?" "So I accessed the security cameras all around the house and look at what I found." Oh, what?" "Jack, the reason I've been feeling so drowsy after my dinner is because Vicky has been drugging me with strong sleeping pills, and she's been selling my inheritance while I was passed out." "Okay, look, I'm so sorry that I left you in her hands. I cannot even begin to apologize for it. I should have listened to you, but I want you to keep yourself safe. Fake taking the pill tonight. I'll be home tomorrow." You know what? I'm going to go down to the police station and file a report against her for theft. And on top of that, I want revenge. Whatever you want, darling. I'll be on your side. All right, I'll tell her that you told me you're coming back earlier and I feel better, so I want to meet with the rest of the family so we can spend some quality time. When everyone's gathered, I'll play this video. I actually can't wait to see how this will play out. While Vicky was still asleep, I went out to the police station and reported her crime. I provided them with all the evidence and statements that they needed. They were quick to act, but I asked them to just give me a day to get her back. They told me that they would be there the next afternoon. When I returned back home, Vicky was panicking about where I was, but I told her I went out on a drive because I wanted to feel some wind on my face. Vicky seemed really upset that Jack was coming back, but she tried her best to pretend like she wasn't upset. That night, I faked taking the pill and faked being drowsy. I didn't want her to steal any more from me, so I made sure to lock my dad's office. That night, while I was asleep, I watched as she almost ransacked my room to find the key to the office. She would never find it because the key was around my neck and deep inside my shirt. The next day, every one of Jack's close family members was at my house. They shared their condolences to me, and the entire time Vicky kept rolling her eyes. When Jack came back, everyone surprised him and he played his part well. After an hour of just enjoying each other's company, I got up and told everyone that I had something to share with them. I played the video on the TV, I explained to them what they were seeing, and everyone looked at Vicky with shock. Vicky tried to defend herself, but Jack had none of it. He told her that he never wanted to have anything to do with her anymore. Vicky tried to cry and get everyone's sympathy, but everyone just looked disgusted with her. She then tried to turn the tables on me and tried to tell everyone that I was manipulating them and I faked evidence. But all I had to do was pull out the bottle of sleeping tablets and she shut her mouth. Right around then, we heard police sirens. Vicky looked chalk white, but I just smirked at her. It felt great to finally give her a taste of her own medicine. In the weeks that followed, Vicky was charged with petty theft and was asked to pay me a fine of $1,000, along with a reimbursement of all my lost goods. Jack and I have been going strong. Strangely enough, this incident showed me just how resilient I am, and I felt better about myself. Things have been looking up so far, and it's even better knowing that I'm able to stand up for myself.